The air in Judge Judy's courtroom was electric, not just tense, but almost humming with anticipation. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat calmly at the defense table, shoulders square, gaze unwavering, unbothered by the whispers and camera, shutters around her. Across from her, Judge Judy Shindlin, America's no-nonsense legal matriarch, leaned in with a glare that could freeze lava. "Congresswoman Crockett," she said, voice sharp as broken glass. "I've seen your little performances in Congress. What you need is a refresher in how to respect authority." Gasps rippled through the audience. This wasn't daytime fluff. This was a showdown, a heavyweight match in heels and law degrees. What came next would become the most replayed, most dissected moment in the history of courtroom television. And it would elevate Jasmine Crockett's political brand from rising firebrand to national force. "Your Honor," Crockett replied, calm as a sniper, "you might want to double-check your facts before you come for me." That one sentence cracked. The room opened like thunder. No one talks back to Judge Judy, not on her turf. But Crockett wasn't just going to talk back, she was going to spar. And she came prepared. To understand why this standoff became seismic, we have to look at who these women are and why their collision was inevitable. Judge Judy, a Brooklyn-born legal titan who clawed her way up through the family court system, then conquered television with a combination of sharp legal instincts and zero tolerance for idiocy. She's ruled the courtroom stage for more than 2 decades, known for cutting through BS like a hot knife through soft ego. And she's used to being the alpha. Always. Enter Jasmine Crockett, a civil rights attorney turned congresswoman with a spine of steel and a tongue like a lawyer's scalpel. She didn't get to Washington by playing nice. She got there by outworking, outthinking, and outarguing the establishment. To her, titles are nothing without substance. She doesn't flinch at bluster. She dissects it. And Judge Judy? She'd been watching Crockett rise with a growing sense of unease. In her eyes, Crockett was a disruptor, a rule breaker, a challenge to everything she held sacred: order, tradition, hierarchy. This wasn't just about politics. It was about what kind of power America respects, the kind earned through years of service and seniority, or the kind that emerges by cutting through the noise with facts and fearlessness. The moment Judge Judy struck the gavel, the room felt it. "This wasn't going to be civil. This was going to be historic. I've watched your behavior in Congress," Judy began, tone heavy with judgment. "Frankly, I'm unimpressed. You mistake volume for value." A murmur rustled through the studio. Crockett blinked slowly, calm, calculating. But those who knew her could see it, the micro-shift in her posture. She was preparing to strike. "Your Honor," she said, voice level, "I'd be happy to walk you through my record. You might find it more educational than you expect." But Judge Judy didn't want an education. She wanted a takedown. "Watch. Your tone," she snapped. "I've been practicing law since before you were born. I've seen lawyers like you, cocky, loud, always convinced they're right. They usually aren't." The audience tensed. It wasn't just age being weaponized, it was authority, legacy, the old guard challenging the new. Judy pressed on. "I've spent 25 years commanding this courtroom. I've earned more than most politicians because I know how to handle people like you." Crockett's reply was ice wrapped in velvet. "With respect, Your Honor, what do you mean by people like me? Could you clarify that?" That sentence landed like a grenade. For a moment, even Judy hesitated. "Politicians," she finally said, pivoting. "Young ones who think they can walk in, flip tables, and call it progress. You've barely been in Congress, yet you're interrogating Supreme Court nominees like you've been there 40 years. And there it was, the setup Crockett had been waiting for. "Your Honor," she said smoothly, her voice taking on the cadence of cross-examination, It seems there may be a misunderstanding about how the Constitution works. The crowd stirred. The power dynamic was shifting. Judge Judy scowled. Don't lecture me on the Constitution, young lady. I've lived it longer than you've read it. What your generation lacks is institutional respect. She pointed with the flair of a TV icon. You're a performer, a headline chaser. Real lawyers work in silence, with dignity. But that accusation, performer, was exactly the opening Crockett needed. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Your Honor, she said coolly, since my qualifications and legal understanding are under scrutiny, let's examine them, and perhaps yours as well. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow, smirking. Oh, and what do you think you've got in there that I haven't already seen? Crockett smiled faintly. That smile lawyers wear right before they deliver a fatal blow. I reviewed some of your most notable legal decisions before your TV career. Let's start with this one. A 1987 family court ruling where you denied child support to a single mother because she, quote, should have made better life choices. The judge bristled. That decision was based on the facts. Crockett flipped to the next page. Appeals court overturned it in 1990, said your ruling leaned too heavily on personal bias. Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. This wasn't entertainment. This was exposure. Judge Judy stood abruptly, voice sharp. How dare you challenge my record in my courtroom? And that's when Crockett delivered the coup de grace. This isn't your courtroom, she said, rising from her chair, calm as a mountain. This is a television set. You're not a sitting judge. You're a retired one hosting an arbitration. Show, you could hear a pin drop. I am an elected member of the United States Congress. You are a private citizen. Our authority is not equal, and certainly not interchangeable. Judge Judy blinked, speechless, unarmed, unprepared. Crockett continued, voice clear, carrying over the stunned silence. As a congresswoman, I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. That includes oversight of the judicial branch, yes, even of Supreme Court justices. You call that grandstanding. I call it governance. She pulled out a pocket constitution and opened to Article 1. This document gives Congress legislative power, including regulating the courts. Oversight is not optional. It's our duty. And finally, she raised one last document. In McGrain v. Doherty, 1927, she said, the Supreme Court affirmed Congress's right, no, its responsibility, to investigate corruption and enforce accountability across all branches. Judge Judy stared, something unreadable in her eyes, a storm of pride, shock, and perhaps grudging respect. Crockett wasn't done. You questioned my legal training, she said, voice unwavering. So let me be clear. I didn't come here to grandstand. I came prepared, and I came with facts. The room for a long moment didn't make a sound. Then, as the cameras zoomed in on both women, one humbled, one triumphant, it was clear to everyone watching. This wasn't just courtroom drama. This was a constitutional reckoning, and Jasmine Crockett had just made legal television history. Let me break this down clearly, for the room and for every person watching. She held up a single sheet of paper, her credentials. I earned my law degree from the University of Houston Law Center. I spent more than a decade as a civil rights attorney, winning federal cases to defend constitutional rights. I was elected to the Texas legislature where I authored real legislation. And now I serve on the House Judiciary Committee. The contrast was sharp. Jasmine Crockett had built her authority on education, courtroom experience, and public trust. Not TV ratings, not syndication deals. My qualifications to speak on constitutional law, she continued, aren't based on television popularity. They're rooted in experience, education, and the will of the voters who sent me to Washington. Then came the moment no one would forget. You said, I don't respect institutions. Crockett's tone was calm, but cut like glass. You said it like it was a virtue. But I think what you really meant was, I don't defer to power for its own sake. That I don't bow to someone just because they wear a robe or hold a title. She paused, and then delivered a blow without raising her voice. I have deep respect for institutions that earn it, for federal judges who uphold ethics, for justices who stay impartial, even for television icons when they respect the boundaries of their platform. But respect doesn't mean blind obedience to people clinging to power they no longer deserve. The implication hit instantly. The room shifted. Then came the line that would echo across news headlines and TikTok alike. You say my generation thinks we know everything, but we don't. We just know enough to ask the right questions of the right people at the right time. She slowly scanned the room. You made your name holding people accountable, demanding answers. So tell me, how is what I do in Congress any different? Silence. Judge Judy had built a legacy confronting people on screen. But when someone pointed that lens right back at her, suddenly it was labeled disrespect. And Crockett wasn't done. Your Honor, she said, now meeting Judge Judy's eyes directly. Earlier you said you've earned more than most politicians ever will. That may be true, but I don't measure success in service by a paycheck. She leaned in, firm and sincere. I could have gone corporate. I could have cashed in. But I chose public service. Because some things matter more than a salary. For a moment, the courtroom felt like a cathedral. Even Judge Judy, the titan of televised judgment, sensed the gravity. So when you question my qualifications or my commitment, Crockett added, her voice unwavering, I need you to understand something. I'm not here for fame. I'm here because I took an oath, and that oath demands I hold power accountable, even when it's uncomfortable. And for the first time in her storied TV career, Judge Judy didn't have a response. She leaned back, surprised, reflective, and, somehow, respectful. When she finally spoke, her voice was subdued. Congresswoman, she said softly. That was quite a response. The final word? Not hers. Not today. Judy took a breath. I may have misjudged you. Crockett allowed herself a small smile. That happens a lot, Your Honor. I'm used to it. The courtroom erupted. What the crowd came to see was a takedown. What they witnessed was a masterclass. Crockett had remained composed, fact-based, and razor-sharp, and she had just flipped the script. Some in the room stood and applauded. Others hit record, their phones already capturing the moment they knew would go viral. This wasn't just good television. This was something else, a textbook on how to confront authority with knowledge and grace. Even Judge Judy's production crew looked shell-shocked. No one had ever gone toe-to-toe with her like that, and landed every punch. Producers scrambled behind the scenes. This wasn't just an episode. This was television history. It was TV gold, and it had shifted the power dynamic. Minutes after the taping, clips began circulating. Hashtag Jasmine Schools. Judy exploded. A second trend emerged. Constitutional burnout.twitter went into overdrive. Harvard Law professor Lawrence Tribe tweeted, Crockett just gave Judge Judy a constitutional law seminar. This should be required viewing for 1Ls. Legal Twitter buzzed. Members of Congress often fumble in hearings. Crockett had just delivered a clinic. One tweet nailed it. Judge Judy, I don't respect institutions. Crockett, I respect them enough to hold them accountable. Game over. Memes poured in. 1. Crockett holding legal documents. Caption, when someone tries to school you on law, but you went to law school. Another. Judy's stunned face with the words, when the student becomes the teacher. The American Bar Association posted a clip. This is why legal education matters. Law schools requested permission to use the footage. Harvard Law tweeted, this is going in next week's lecture, a perfect example of professional confrontation with authority. Even federal judges took notice. One told the Washington Post, "She explained congressional oversight better than most attorneys I see." But it wasn't just law. Politically, Crockett's stock soared. Sunday shows booked her. Not as a viral firebrand, but as a serious legal thinker, the Speaker of the House released a rare statement. Congresswoman Crockett defended the Constitution with unmatched clarity and calm. Even Republicans acknowledged her skill. One GOP Judiciary committee member said, "I disagree with her on nearly everything, but that was a masterclass." And the cultural impact? Massive. Judge Judy, for decades, symbolized unyielding authority. Crockett's takedown marked a shift. A new generation of leaders who challenge power with preparation, not posturing. She didn't shout. She didn't insult. She came armed with facts. Commentators dove deeper. A young black woman had just out-argued one of America's most recognized authority figures, with logic, not volume. This, one columnist wrote, is what generational change looks like when it shows up prepared. In the aftermath, both women changed. Crockett's reputation evolved. She was now a serious legal voice. Requests poured in for speeches, panels, interviews. A book deal in progress suddenly became urgent. Capitol Hill took note. Committee chairs sought her legal input. Party leaders looped her into strategy. She had earned something rare, bipartisan respect. Judge Judy's aftermath was more complicated. Some faulted her for being unprepared. Others praised her humility, her admission of being wrong, a rarity. And for some, a legacy-defining moment. But the larger truth had emerged. Courtroom TV authority doesn't always hold up next to real constitutional expertise. Legal analysts were blunt. Judge Judy works for small claims. But in the realm of federal law, Crockett was in a different league. This wasn't just viral content. This was a case study. Lesson 1. Preparation outpaces performance. Crockett won through knowledge, not noise. Lesson 2. Respect isn't silence. It's accuracy. She challenged power with precision. Lesson 3. Constitutional literacy matters. She didn't just recite law, she taught it. She modeled leadership, poised, informed, and grounded in civic responsibility. Clips of the exchange soon played in classrooms across America. Civics teachers used it. Law professors referenced it. Political science departments dissected it. It reignited a public conversation on civic education. Young politicians took notice. Many began pivoting away from flash toward depth. Even seasoned lawmakers recalibrated their tone. Underestimate the new generation? Do so at your peril. Political strategists studied the exchange. Crockett had proven that power can be challenged, without chaos, and that professionalism can be revolutionary. Even the media shifted. No longer just drawn to outrage, they began highlighting substance. The Crockett-Judy exchange reset the standard. It proved that you can confront authority with grace. That real power doesn't come from a raised voice, but from raised standards. So what did you think? Did Crockett strike the right balance between respect and accountability? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more moments where preparation meets power, because in a world where the loudest voice often wins, it's the calmest one, armed with facts, that leaves the deepest impact.